Hey, welcome everyone to Fentanyl Facts and Stories. I'm Charlie Perry along with my host here, Paula Santos Young, and we got the Councilman Leo Choquette. He is he's been around the city for a while and Leo, could you wait, let me start over here. It's a good man. He's working hard for the city of New Bedford, Massachusetts. And I just want everybody here that's on Facebook Live, YouTube, and we just added Twitch today. So we're actually on Twitch today. LinkedIn is had some kind of complications, and there's something going on between the Facebook Live and LinkedIn. So they're working out those um, logistics and everything what they're doing, and hopefully by next week we'll be able to log into LinkedIn like we normally do because we get a great response with the crowd that's in LinkedIn. So without further ado, the lead is going to be taken by Paula Santos. Hello, Paula, and just want to say hello because we didn't meet and greet each other than little text messages. But thanks for joining us today. You too, Leo.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you, everyone. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being on today, Monday night. And I'm glad there's no football. So that means the
There
questions
is
stop.
football today. What's wrong
There
with
is.
you? There is
Yeah, man, I
football
thought it
today.
was done because it's the playoffs. See, Leo, so what you need to, oh, Councilman, I'm sorry. What you need to understand is Charlie asks me a question every Monday regarding football. And all the audience know that I suck at sports because I don't know sports. So we think that people only come on and listen because of me making a fool of myself every time he asks me a football question. But
Well, you already failed today. It was a good
but
game on today.
yeah, but we want to thank everyone. We want to thank our Councilman Leo for being on here today. He is, he's doing a lot of great things in the city. We're going to hand it over to him because obviously his time is important. But we want to hear from you, Councilman, what you plan or what your plans are for 2025. What do you think of the pulse of the city, the pulse of the nation? What do you think of the new administration coming in next week and everything that we're hearing? There's been a lot of buzz in Boston with what Tom Homan's planning to do, really just kind of tackling everything so people can understand exactly where your stance is, what you support, and what's the next path after being a councilman.
Well, thank you, Paula, and again, thank you, Charlie. Um,
You're welcome.
well, just in case folks out there don't remember, Charlie ran for mayor, and I'm just a little ward counselor. Charlie ran for the precinct.
We
So,
all got a job to do, and I was just trying to do my part. And hey, I came in second. I wasn't third, so it
no,
all
you did
it
well.
was a good experience. I learned a lot, and I'm pretty sure everybody learns from their own campaigns, and I definitely did. So, and good job by you by winning. Your seat. It's a tough job, and we think sometimes we think we can be Monday night quarterback, excuse the pun, and preach from the sidelines and in the bleachers and everywhere else. And there's a lot of practicing without there's a lot of theory without practice, and that's what we like to hold people accountable here on the fentanyl facts and stories.
Yep. So what you just spoke of, Charlie, is something I actually feel strongly about myself. Sincerely. Okay, there are a lot of people out there that in politics they will talk a good game, no matter what the topic. Right? It could be fentanyl. I mean, it could be economics. It could be immigration. It could be homelessness. Um, and there's also, from what I've learned at the local level, because again, local politics is markedly different from state and incredibly different from federal politics, right?
Yeah,
It used to be that all politics is local. However, it kind of feels like the inverse is happening, where all politics is federal now. Just look at the strength of New Bedford as far as, you know, um, whether you like President Trump or you don't like President Trump, you have to admit that he picked up quite a bit of ground in New Bedford. Now, I'm not ashamed to admit that I am a Democrat myself, albeit a conservative one. I kind of fall on that old, like the guy I keep his picture here above my shoulder, President Kennedy. He's a conservative Democrat by today's standards. Maybe even a liberal Republican. I don't know. That's not for me to figure out. That's for the political scientists out there. But anyway, long story short, I fall on different sides on some of these arguments politically at the federal level. Now, I can tell you that I fall in your guys' camp when it comes to fentanyl. Fentanyl is, you don't need me to educate you or anybody else here who listens to this podcast. You all know the dangers of it. And you do know that the socioeconomic events around the world drive the cartel to distribute these, agents across the border. So it is a subject that does have it hits a lot of spots with federal politics, right? You're talking about drugs and enforcement by the government. You're talking about, border security, right? You're talking about cartels. You're talking about the distribution, criminal networks. So a lot of these topics are sensitive to the folks in my party, the Democratic Party. And unfortunately, I've probably burned quite a few bridges lately with more progressive elements in my party, because the Democratic Party is going like this at the federal level. And at our local level, we have good folks who are progressives. And, the mentality is a lot of us moderate and centrist Democrats are starting to move over to the right a little more. And it's really not so much that we're moving, it's that our party's moving the other way. So I try to not speak out about a lot of these sensitive issues because they're above my pay grade. They're above my ability to really do anything, obviously at the federal level. I'm not a federal politician, nor am I a state politician. I'm just a ward councilor in the 6th largest city in the Commonwealth. But what I've noticed is that this problem, drugs in general, obviously does not know class, it doesn't know color, it doesn't know religion, it doesn't know creed, it doesn't know orientation. Anybody can get addicted to these substances. And unfortunately, people can die inadvertently and not even realize that they've ingested these things. So I'd like to work, and with the incoming administration, if possible, that obviously the federal government, as far as I'm willing to work with and allow exposure into the city of New Bedford by whatever federal law agencies need to come in to help put a stranglehold, on the distribution of any kind of unregulated narcotics. And that's where things get kind of ironic, right? On this end, you have the cartels and the criminal elements, right? But then also on this end, you have the pharmaceutical companies, right? I'm sure you folks have heard of the Sackler family. They are awful, awful people. Where I went to college, University of Vermont, I remember there was a Sackler Center for the Arts. Fortunately, my alma mater has taken that family's name down because of all the damage the Sackler family has done. And you have to ask yourself, are the Sackler family any different than the Mexican cartels as far as, the end result? Right?
That's a great point. Yeah.
Right? All these lives that have been destroyed, all these families that have been torn apart. Now, I'm not coming on here to defend the cartels, right? But, a lot of times the spotlight is shown on the organized crime side, but what about the legalized pharmaceutical people that are, getting people addicted and hooked? So I guess my long-winded answer to Paul's question would be, whatever I can do in my, position as a Ward 1 City Councilor, I'm willing to do. Now, again, I'm not the mayor, so I don't have that kind of power. I'm not even an at-large councilor. But, cooperation is needed at the local level with the other levels of government, state and federal. And I'm willing to work with, anybody at these levels.
Exactly. Takes a team to get things like this that are so crucial and vital to the community, because the losses and numbers are so high that I don't think a lot of people don't realize how high it is. So when you know Paula and many others come on and they draw out the facts that are very crucial, especially with outreach. We're actually trying to be an outreach, a proactive outreach podcast, and thanks to Paula and her work that she does on a daily basis, we are definitely being proactive.
Yeah, being proactive. That's trying to find ways to get out in front of it, right? It's a sad state of affairs to admit it, but most people's children are eventually probably going to come into contact with something like this at some point in their lives. Um, whether down the road in college or just hanging out with friends and just being in the wrong place at the wrong time. So I think education is crucial to make sure that the children of today are able to know ahead of time what could happen in a situation. I don't want to sit here and be like, hey, I'm like Nancy Reagan, just say no. I mean, although that may have been a start, it was kind of a weak message, in my opinion. Like the whole "just say no" campaign. I think a lot of people didn't understand all the background behind it, as far as you're telling people to say no. What are you saying no to? So at least here we know that any kind of narcotics, right? I mean, these things can kill you, right? The whole "just say no," use your brain on marijuana or whatever. Listen, I'm not telling people to smoke marijuana or not and do what they want, right? But that stuff pales in comparison to heroin, fentanyl, designer opiates, opioid precursors. There are a lot of chemists that work for these places that, these cartels that are able to synthesize chemicals that are the precursors of the actual causative agent of the condition, right? And we have to educate the youth and let them know ahead of time. So that's why I really got really excited about Paula's message, where she's able to go to different school systems in the Commonwealth. And we're going to do everything we can to get her over here into New Bedford. We've spoken. I know I emailed Andrew O'Leary. Hopefully, we're going to follow up on that. And if she needs me to reach out to the Superintendent O'Leary again, I have no problem. I'd be more than happy to set something up. And also with Voc, with Superintendent Mike Watson. I think that way we're hitting both New Bedford High and Voc. And so you're getting almost probably 85% of all the children in New Bedford ages 14 to 19.
That's good.
Right. And I appreciate that, because obviously, I say this all the time. And one of the things that people know about me and what we're doing here in the city and in the Commonwealth and abroad in other states also is, we can't do this alone, right? It needs to be an effort where all hands are on deck. I say this all the time. And when I've spoken to not just yourself, but I think sometimes what I am hearing is I'm hearing other people who are trying to get involved or to go in front of their council folks, whether it be, Councilman Jane Burgo or Maria Giesta or Brian Gomes. There's so many of them that people will say, hey, how do I get them to respond? Because they're not responding. And I think that's one of the biggest things that, people need to understand, that if you are in a position that you're voted in and you're out there asking for people's votes, and Charlie and I have spoken about this before many times with other guests, and you're asking for a vote and you're putting your hand on a Bible to say that you're going to make a conscious effort to protect the citizens that you have been voted in for, then do your job. Plain and simple. And what I can say is for Ward 1, that Councilman Leo has been amazing. And when I call him, he responds all the time. via text, a phone call. And, I won't say that everybody does not respond, but there are some. And again, we understand that people get busy, but you know what? How many more times can you use that as an excuse? Because we have a crisis in this country. The crisis is not going away. Charlie and I just had a couple weeks ago, I think going on a month now, Charlie, we had a deputy fire chief from Massachusetts here on the show where he indicated, and then we've also had former agents on here from Homeland Security and ICE. And if people don't think that the cartel is here in New Bedford, in Massachusetts, and they're working with the Latin Kings and they're working with, ISIS, who's also here in Massachusetts, then people are living in a living in a different world. And this is one of the biggest things that we need to tackle in 2025 is, we need to stop talking about it and we need to do it. So I appreciate your help with making sure that these things happen. And you know what? And even if they don't, because for whatever reason, then that's on the people who don't want to work with us, right? I mean, we're going to continue the advocacy. I mean, the things that Achieve Greatness has done and is going to do, and Councilman, of many of them. It's not because of the help that I've gotten from the local government here, so to speak. It's because of others that are saying, how can we help? How can we stand with you? And let's make this happen. So I think I applaud you for being on. I applaud you for talking about what the city needs. But let's talk about what the city needs, because we just had Shane got voted in as a president, and there's been a lot of back and forth with that, we all know. But what is it really going to take to bring people together? Because the community is seeing it. I mean, we have shootings every day, almost every day now. We just had a shooting, the other day at Mora Lounge, and the mayor came out and finally said something, which is great that he did. But how many times did that lounge have an issue before he finally said something? So, I mean, what is it going to take for folks to truly understand that it has to be a conscious effort of people like yourself and other counselors and other, state reps for our Commonwealth to come together and all be at the same table?
Yeah. So another thing that I've learned in my short year as a city councilor is that never assume that who you're working with is on the same wavelength as you are. And I don't mean that as a dig against any of my colleagues. It just means that just because I see something and say to myself, all right, common sense would say Y or X, right? Common sense would say, okay, I see this the way it is. Working with other individuals, I have to take into account that element of, looking at something at a different angle. Now, fortunately, on an issue like this, there really is no other angle than, fentanyl is a scourge and opiates are a scourge. And if they don't kill the people you love, they'll addict them and turn them into people who are almost zombie-like, right? So it's an easy interpretation. It's an easy, an easy look. It's not like there's 6,000 or 7,000 different possible options. Okay. So that being said, I put faith in my colleagues that, they if they haven't seen what's going on yet, then they will. And on some issues, I've already stepped out on my own and taken the lead on small things in my ward. I've kind of learned that if I want to get results, sometimes I have to go around my colleagues. And I know that doesn't sound like the greatest thing, but I can only hope that folks on, who I work with in city government will look inwards as far as what's happened maybe with their families and their friends, because this, again, for lack of a better word, scourge has hurt everybody in
Right.
one way or another. I have a cousin who had a multi-million-dollar masonry business, and he was taking OxyContin for his back. He got hurt on the job, and he ended up running out of his prescription and was already addicted and going through dope sickness, and started stealing pocketbooks from people to try to buy heroin. This is a guy that had a house that was an ex, 6 children, and a multi-million-dollar company that he ran, construction company. He was sleeping in his truck within 3 months. So he had to flee the area, and he had to, he was stealing pocketbooks out of the Panthers Club. These guys wanted to kill him. They had a hit out on him. Someone had a hit out on him. He had to flee. Okay. And he was hiding out in another state, which I'm not going to repeat, but his life changed dramatically over the last 10 years. He became a drug treatment counselor. And, I'm glad that he was able to overcome the addiction, but you really never truly overcome it. You're always going to be addicted. You just manage it. I guess it's almost like diabetes to some extent, right? Once you have it, you never really are healed from it. You just have to make better life choices. I know that's kind of a weak analogy, but it's kind of like that, I guess, in some regards. So, even my family has had, and again, I'm no better than anybody else. I grew up as a kid in Harborview Towers on South 2nd Street, and, I'm from a blue-collar family, and I was fortunate to go to college and all that. But, I'm not immune to this stuff either. And I have at least 2 friends who have become addicted. I had a friend when I lived in Montana who was massively addicted to OxyContin, and he ended up dying. He was living on the street because of his habit, and he passed out on the 3rd floor of a building and fell to his death. Broke his neck at age 43. So, everybody has a story that they can tell. So, the question comes down to, what do we do to stop this? And what do we do to save people's lives? And it has to start with education, right? And then it also has to include enforcement, right? You've got to stop the supply somehow. Now, I'm not a law enforcement officer. Maybe in another life I have the privilege of that, but in this life I don't. And I can't speak for the police and the federal marshals and the stadies and they, law enforcement officers, but they're going to have to really fight something that's well established here already. And I wish them the best of luck. Whatever I can offer as far as access to my ward and votes on the council, I'm willing to work hard to, get the incoming administration what they need to help fight this. And this problem supersedes political party, right? It's not about Democrats, it's not about Republicans, it's not about independents, it's not about progressives, and it's not about whatever the right wing would be, reactionaries or whatever. It's about getting results, and it's about keeping people from being in a position where they are exposed to this stuff. And if they are exposed to it, giving them the tools they need to make the correct life choice so that they never become addicted. Because being addicted is, some would say it's a fate even worse than death. It's, and there's no panacea. There's no one answer that's going to fit everything. But obviously money helps as far as funding programs. So that's another thing. Fundraising will also help awareness. And Paula, I know you do so much in this cause, and I'm so proud of the work you do. I can't tell you. No, I really don't tell you enough. I don't think, but I am proud of what you do. Your concern for this, and your undying fire that you have to stop this problem.
Thank you. Well, I think, and that, I've said this multiple times, is that, it takes a community, right? Because when we were growing up, I remember our grandparents used to say, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, the crisis that we are in today, it's going to take a tribe to save a generation. And that's what I say all the time, because that's exactly what we're losing, is we're losing a generation. We're losing your future doctors, lawyers, teachers, parents, council members, mayors, governors. We're losing them to fentanyl poisoning. And I think
Hello?
that, oh, we had lost you, Charlie. He's frozen. I think one of the biggest things that we need to remember in 2025 is to have that sense of action, right? To have the sense of prevention and awareness, and educating, acting, and educating, and making sure that people follow through on what they say, because it's not just going to be Paula and Achieve Greatness and Phil that are going to save the children of New Bedford. It's going to have to be all of us, you, all the council members, and everyone, and having a conscious effort to do it.
Yeah, and you're talking about how the opiates can affect anybody of any profession. I forget which movie or which series it was. It was the one with Michael Keaton. Did you see that one? It might be Dope Sick. I forget what it is, but Michael Keaton plays the country doctor, and there's a scene where he inadvertently starts. He prescribes it to himself, the OxyContin, and then there's a scene where, right at the end of the episode, he pulls open his desk to throw an empty pill bottle in there, and there must be 30 empty pill bottles that he's already gone through, and it's so powerful.
Right. And exactly. And you talked about that too, is, the mental health aspect of this, right? And how people fall into substance use. And there's just so much that we need to work on together as a community, as a country, to help those in need. Because how many stories have we heard? I'm sure you've heard, I've heard, the audience has heard, of people who are going to the hospital for help, and they get told, oh, we're going to put you in a facility for a day or two, and then you're back out in the street. Or they put you into a facility for 30 days, and then you're back out in the street. Well, how is that helping that person? It's not. We have to have a conscious plan as to helping and starting from the beginning of that. There was an article put out by New Bedford Light, I think it was last year, about vaping in our schools here in New Bedford. And the article indicated that vaping is up by like 300% just in our city. And they're starting at 7 and 8 years old. So when you hear statistics like that, and you're hearing that 7 and 8 year olds are just vaping or smoking marijuana because they're not smoking cigarettes anymore, because vaping is the new thing, then why wouldn't you make a conscious effort collectively to do something to talk to the kids and to get the messaging out in reference to awareness and advocacy, and education, like you said. And I think it's the barriers that continue to be there. And this is why I always say all the time, thank you for standing with us. And there has been some others that have done so. But again, this is not a one and done. I mean, if you're going to say that you're going to stand with an organization and combat this crisis that we have, then people need to understand that this is a long time platform. This is not I'm here today, gone tomorrow. And again, that's why I think some of the folks in our city, because I know even with the numbers of voting, we're not that high, because they have a sense of, why should I vote if it's the same old, same old?
Yes, I agree. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do the monthly, or they kind of tend to fall every other month, meetings at Pulaski for Ward 1, is to get folks reinvigorated on issues that affect them in local government. Because when you get folks interested again, right, they're going to be more apt to participate. And when folks participate in government, now they're going to find themselves excited to go and vote. And we won't have single-digit voter turnout, which, Mayor Mitchell will talk about this a lot, and he brings up some good points with the whole. It affects the city's ability to get how the redistricting will work every 10 years. When they gerrymander the state representative districts, that, the amount of people who vote in the city, that plays a significant role in how they draw these districts. So if you want to have a more unified New Bedford in the State House, we have to show the governor and the electoral commission at the state level that people in New Bedford care about what
Right.
goes on in government. I mean, you don't have to like the people that are serving in government. Hell, I don't think I even like a lot of the people serving in government, but they are the people that we have to work with and work through. And if they can't do the job, then you have to be ready to do your job, which is vote them out. And again, I'm not telling you who to vote for or whether someone should be voted out or not. That can only be answered by you, the voter. But you all know when people are doing their jobs and when they're not. It's
Right.
Right.
But I think one of the biggest things too, Councilman, is, we're at a point where, it's okay to call somebody out, right? If they're not doing their job. I mean, I call,
I've already
listen,
upset many of the people on the council because I've been honest and I've ruffled feathers and I'm not trying to foment dissension among the ranks, for lack of a better expression, but we have a job to do. And if we're not getting results for people, there may be a reason why, and it may be that people aren't doing their jobs. And again, I'm not pointing a finger at any one particular person, but this has to be a group effort, right? It takes a community, it takes a village, it takes a council, it takes the mayor, it takes police departments, it takes law enforcement, etc. So everybody's going to be on board, but also it takes you, the voter. And look, I used to draw the analogy that when voter turnout is so low, it's like making people watch, 12 hours of B movies in a B movie marathon. They get bored and they want to leave, right? But if politicians are doing their job, making things happen, then the movie hopefully starts to feel like a blockbuster, and people want to take part in what's going on in the process rather than kind of just be forced to sit there. I guess that's that's really the best way I can explain it. People aren't stupid, obviously, and people will come and vote, but they have to feel like their votes can make a difference. And like you said, if it's always the same people, and not even so much the same people. Look, if we had, President Kennedy and President Lincoln and President Washington and President Obama and all these amazing presidents who just all happen to be city councilors on the New Bedford City Council, right? People would come out and vote for them. But it's not just about who's there; it's about, are they doing their job,
right.
So my challenge to the voters out there is, we know that you guys watch what we do, but some of us, and I'm not saying myself, but some politicians think, well, the voter turnout's so low, no one's watching, right? But I honestly believe that voters are watching, and they do care, and I'm going to continue to challenge you guys out there to take part in meetings in the ward, in having your opinions heard, in being part of the government. Because, again, we all know this is a democracy. And how many hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions at this point, of people gave their lives so we could have a democracy? We are the we are the rarity in the world. And yeah, we get it wrong sometimes. And yeah, sometimes the United States is a bully around the world. But let me tell you something. Anybody I've ever met who came here from another country, they will tell you this is as good as it is in the world. And that we take this for granted, what we have.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of like you said, it's collectively working together, right? Because you're never gonna like everybody. I mean, I could run for Senate tomorrow and walk into the state house, and I can already give you names on my hands of people I'm not gonna like even before walking in the door. just because of the interaction that I've had with them already. So, but it comes to the point of where when you're collectively working for the same common goal, those things need to be put aside. Because again, when you put your hand on that Bible to say that you're going to work for the people that voted for you, then you need to do your job. Or let's get rid of the Bible because people aren't following it and just put, I don't know, a math book. Because if you're not going to follow the stance of what that stands for, then you shouldn't be in the position you're in either. And I know Charlie's been having a hard time today with the internet over at his house. So he's been coming on. I think you're on a different site now, right, Charlie?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a Wi-Fi connection in the other room that I was in, but Leo, I appreciate you coming on, and I have to replay this, and I don't want to miss anything that you had mentioned because I definitely need your input, your intellect. So thank you for coming on.
Yeah, no problem. I can go a little longer if you guys want. I mean, I could probably stay till 8:30.
Well, tell us or tell the viewers here in New Bedford, what are your plans for 2025? What is, Councilman Leo have that you can share, maybe one or two items that you'd like to share of what you have planned for 2025 for our city?
Well, again, these they're not going to necessarily be the most exciting things because I'm only a ward councilor. So, but things that I'm trying to get pushed through in New Bedford, which starts in Ward 1, the traffic calming measures around Campbell Elementary School. So I know people are probably going to be like, that's not really exciting. Well, let me explain why this is so important. So Campbell Elementary School in the North End sits at the end of the only way in and out of the New Bedford Housing Authority development for Satellite Village. And there are literally 300-400 cars back there in a one kind of like a dead end. And they come out, and when you have that many people that live way in the back of the woods, they have to, come out to go to work, to go to school, to go to the store. And that street, Morton Avenue, where it meets in Phillips Road, is constantly under assault from people going 50, 60, 80. We've even clocked people at 117 through the school zone alongside of Campbell Elementary. And, it got very political. I was trying to get speed tables put in over there because, I'm not trying to pick on anybody that lives back there. But, when people are going that fast, they're not going to stop at stop signs. Right? That's the city's default positions. Let's put a stop sign back there. Well, if somebody's willing to drive 117 miles through the school zone, you really think they're going to stop at a stop sign if they can see nobody coming from the left and right as they're approaching?
Right.
Unlikely. So another example of common sense thrown out the window. The Traffic Commission went ahead, put in stop signs, and as predicted, the 80% of the people that follow the rules anyway now stop and then go, right? So
I put the game on.
It's only 20% of the folks up there that are not following the rules. They just blow through the stop signs, right? So having those speed bumps there gives you only two possible options as you're approaching that intersection in the school zone. You either slow down or your car gets messed up. And I'm not trying to be vindictive, but if you're willing to drive that fast to a school zone, I want you to pay somehow, whether it's in tickets, which are never going to get paid out because there's no police available the amounts that we need because of the staffing, or I want damage to happen to your car so that you learn not to drive that fast like an idiot. Kill children.
It's in Leo, there's some other towns, especially like in the Cape and the Plymouth area, they put those bumps throughout the town. It's different places, locations, and so it's a doable thing. And I if you need any,
yeah, no, I appreciate any help with that because, and I don't want to air my dirty laundry, but it got political at the city council level, and two councilors went out of their way to block the vote in the traffic commission. So I had a letter of support from the principal, Lisa Wilden, from the principal of Campbell Elementary School, which legitimately stated that he supported this notion of the traffic calming measures through the speed tables, speed bumps are actually a very version, but speed tables, speed cushions, whatever you want to call them, the less invasive kind. Because there are 51 school children that attend her elementary school that live in Satellite Village, who walk from Satellite Village down the street, down Morton Avenue, through that, what I call aircraft carrier deck, because all the cars just going yim, 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 one after the other. 51 children under the age of 10. And people on the city council who I work with made it political and made it personal against me to block it. So this is the one example where sometimes it gets very difficult to be out on the, what I call like Choquette Island, right? I'm out on my own. And I'm trying to get results for my constituents. And now I'm dealing with other councilors who have a bone to pick with me. So I quickly learned that now if I really have issues that I want to get done, I go around them. I go to the mayor's department heads now. And things magically get done just like that. So it's very sad that the city council has that kind of element to it. You have 11 disparate personalities, but they should be working together to reach a common goal. Unfortunately, sometimes it's like middle school. It gets ridiculous.
Now, what is being done, because I know a lot of people on here are listening, in reference to the streets? I mean, look, everyone's excited that the train's coming. We heard it today. They must have been doing testing. I can hear the train from my house. I mean, it's literally, and let's just say, well, anyway, what is being done? Because these streets are horrific. They're honestly, they're like awful. Has there been any money put in reference to the budget to really fix the streets? Because you have, just going down Church Street is not a smooth ride at all.
You know when to turn, when to avoid the hole in the ground, when to go
right
over. No, I got you. So all I can say to that is the DPI has a schedule of road maintenance that will include, it does include Church Street. It's just that they're behind because right now there's no construction going on most of these streets. Now, there are some things that are happening, right? If you see any kind of construction, it's generally the utility companies that are trying to get their modifications done. Again, I'm not a civil engineer, so I don't know everything, but I do know that a lot of times the utility companies, have upgrades, modifications, things that have to be done before the roads can be repaired over them. And so it's a long process. It's multidisciplinary. You got not just the city, but now the utility companies, and trying to get them to line up is like trying to hurt cats sometimes. The DPI is great in this city. Jamie Pont, it's always a pleasure to work with him. He is gone, and also Justin Chico, who's the assistant director of DPI. These gentlemen have gone out of their way multiple times, numerous times, to help me get things done for constituents. So I have to applaud them for that. I know that most folks don't see the truth, right? They only see the large things getting done. Now, things are slow right now, again, because it's still the winter. And work should be picking up all over the city sometime in March. And then, the season will continue all the way into probably the end of October before they go out on kind of like a break again. And that's really why things seem like they're not getting done as far as the road goes. Now, with the train, I am very hopeful, okay, that especially at Kings Highway, which is the kind of like the business center, not the industrial center, because industrial park would be industrial center, but kind of like the Business Center Award 1 of those King Highway plazas, right on the line. They are going to be reinvigorated by the arrival of this train, in my opinion. All you have to do is look to the Middleborough Lakeville train, commuter rail up there in Lakeville. 20 years ago, all you had was a road going into the woods and a parking lot. Now you have condos, you have high-end retail. Again, not to pick on Dollar General or Dollar Value or whatever, but that seems like the only kind of stores right now we can get in Bedford, for God's sake. So we want to have higher end things. We can keep the Dollar General. I mean, I don't mind those. I buy stuff from it all the time. But we need a Target. We need at least one big box retailer to try to get them in here to prove to the other business community, the large business community out there, the retail stores, that you can open a store in New Bedford and you can be successful, that the property tax is not necessarily always going to be prohibitive, right? I mean, Dartmouth is the mecca for commercial stores. And that also allows the people that live in Dartmouth to have much lower residential taxes, because when your commercial tax rate, it supports the mall, Walmart, Target, Kohl's, all those other, retail stores. You have probably like 20, 50, nearly $100 million worth of money coming out on commercial taxes. So we don't have that in New Bedford because the tax rates have been so damn high. They've come down for businesses, but the split tax rate, right? We have some residential, some commercial. And every year it's like we rob Peter to pay Paul. And even though overall the tax rate's going down, the valuation of properties is another multiplier against that, which causes the most important value, which is what's coming out of your wallet to pay, to continue to go up, even if tax rates are going down. So to make a long story short, the increased attraction to big retail businesses to come into New Bedford, and the only place I can think of in the whole city for them to go would be these Kings Highway plazas. The one where Ocean State Job Lot is, the one where the movie theater used to be, Workout World is now, and of course the main one where Shaw's used to be. Those three plazas are going to be within walking distance from the parking lot of the commuter rail train. So we should see the same exact explosion in concentric rings of development, right, that the Middleborough Lakeville line saw. And the larger reason for why we should see them is because we already have the infrastructure is already extant. It already exists. We just put it in Ollie's. There's still commercial space available in some of those plazas. We need to get high-end stuff, because if we can get these businesses in there and they're doing well, they're going to pay good taxes, which are going to help lower the overall, not just the tax rate for the residents, but it'll help lower the amount of money that they're going to pay, that we all pay for property tax. And just quickly, I wanted to plug this if it's okay. January 28th, 6 p.m. Pulaski School, speaking of property tax, if you or your loved one are not happy with the tax bill you received in the mail, and that probably should apply to almost everybody unless you like paying taxes, please come to this tax forum we're going to have. I'm going to have some of the city assessors there, the city CFO, chief financial officer. We're going to have open mic. It's your ability to come in and ask these individuals questions. Why is my tax bill this high? Are you using Zillow to calculate my property value? What's going on? And we had something similar to this last year at Keith Middle School back in January. So if you went to that last one, you'll know what I'm talking about and trying to get here. I expect several hundred people to attend. I hope we get that kind of turnout. And the whole city's invited. It's not just Ward 1. So
what time?
What's that?
What time again? Is that 6 or 6:30?
6 p.m. We're gonna start right at 6 p.m. And we're gonna talk about property taxes, how they're calculated. How are the valuations of your property calculated? I've got dozens of questions from folks like saying, how in the heck is my property value so much higher now versus last year? And why is it being factored into my tax rate this year and not the prior year? I mean, a lot of questions that, with the assessor and the city CFO being there, they can answer 5 questions and probably answer 100 people's questions all at once.
Do we think that that's a good idea though? Because when we say that we want to bring a high-end retailer to our area, and the only reason I'm saying this is because of the way that the economy is right now, where people are having to wonder if they're going to buy their medicine or get milk. And then we have our taxes who are going up. And yeah, mine went up. I mean, on my street, on my cul-de-sac, there's 10 houses here. That's a value of almost $80,000 to the state, just to the city, just in taxes that we pay. And we can't even get good plowing when we do have snow. So, I mean, I think these are some of the things that you're going to be hearing from people. But again, we have the job market. And I'm just saying, just talking out loud for people who I know are asking questions. The job market, economically they're saying it's good, but there's a lot of people who are not working right now. And when we're hitting people with, so many taxes as we do, and we're kind of just doing it after the fact instead of saying, hey, FYI, this is why we're going to do this. Does that advantageously make sense to then say, hey, let's bring a high-end retailer into the area? And I get what you're saying, where it's going to help. But I mean, again, I think it's just the taxes in general. I mean, look, I suck at accounting, and anybody can tell you that. But what I can tell you is that we know the economy, we know what's happening, we know that our neighbors are struggling. And one of the things that we probably need to look at is, how can we help our neighbors in need and not continue to raise taxes to where, someone feels like they're paying almost $10,000 and I don't see the ocean from my house.
All right. So again, we're not talking about bringing in Saks Fifth Avenue, Bloomingdale's, and
hey, they got some good stuff, okay?
Like Target, like anything other than Dollar General. I mean, that's the only apparent retail store we can get. It frustrates me because, we're a city of probably close to 120,000 people when you add everybody up. These businesses should be falling hand over fist to come in here, and obviously they're not, because it's a tax issue. And we got to break that. We got to break the cycle, right? We got having new companies come in here, right, is going to provide jobs for folks. So a lot of these people, that want to work but can't find jobs. Look, I mean, I know nobody grows up to become and say, I want to work in retail, but at certain points in your life, you gotta just kind of suck it up and say, look, I need money. My family needs money. Even myself, hell, I worked at Walmart when I was before I went to law school. I unloaded trucks. So you do what you got to do at the time, right? To make money. So having opportunity is never a bad thing, first of all, right? So the more businesses that we can get to come to this city, it does many things. I mean, I'm a free market capitalist, as much as I can be. And having competition for surrounding stores, right? Like what happens, for instance, when you go to CVS, there's always a Walgreens right across the street or within walking distance, because these chains are constantly fighting each other to drive prices down and compete. Well, that's the byproduct of, these large retail stores. Having a Target over here, right? Or having, and again, I'm not saying Target, I mean, maybe we could even get a Walmart. Who the heck knows? We won't know until we try. We have to take advantage of the fact that this train is coming in. We're never going to get another chance at this, okay? The economy around here, especially in this ward, is going to continue to be kind of stale the way it is. I honestly think that Kings Highway is the answer to a lot of things, job-wise, revenue-wise, reputation-wise. Because like I said before, when other big box retailers, right, like the people in Walmart, when they're sitting over in Bentonville, Arkansas, they say to themselves, yeah, we got this huge population center in the city of New Bedford, but let's do everything we can to not put a store there, but put one in every one of the surrounding towns. Dartmouth, Fairhaven, Wareham, Taunton, right? They got them all over the place except in New Bedford. And that's a function of the tax problems that the city has. And until we fix that, the residents are going to continue to pay the brunt of taxes when the valuations of properties go up, because there's no commercial tax base to offset the city of New Bedford like there is in Dartmouth, right? Dartmouth pays like, I don't know, like $7 or $8 per 1,000 for their residential tax. New Bedford's is $11.29 or $11.30. That doesn't seem like a big difference, but when you consider the fact that Dartmouth also has garbage pickup, right? And they have some services, because the less services a city has, technically their taxes should be lower, right? So there's towns out on Cape Cod, like Chatham, where the tax is only $3 per 1,000. Whereas there are other places like Springfield where the taxes are like $17 per 1,000, because they have an overbloated budget, but they have sewer, water, garbage pickup, snow plowing. They have everything.
Right. Absolutely. Well, this has been wonderful, and you have been great at answering the questions and really being engaging, and we so appreciate that. And I know that Charlie, unfortunately, has been cut off from the world of the internet. Apparently, he pissed someone from the universe off today.
I tend to do that quite a bit in my job.
But we want to thank you so much for being here and for taking the time, because we think it's very important, on this platform. And yes, we talk about fentanyl, but we don't mind bringing in other subject matters like what's going on in our city, because we live here. And the reason you ran is because you care about the city you live in. And it's not because you did it just because of doing it. And for that, we commend you. And anything that we can do in reference to the podcast, Charlie and I, please let us know, and please come on again, because we definitely want to keep the engagement going, because the city wants to know what's happening. And, we've already put out there in reference to the meeting. Charlie will put it out on Facebook and everywhere. And I'm sure that a lot of people will be going to that, because it's an important matter that is happening. And we want to make sure that people understand, why are your taxes going up? And they do understand. And hopefully next year they won't, so we can put a little bit more money in our pockets.
Exactly. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you. I appreciate you. You're doing a great job. I appreciate you. And Paula, thanks for covering me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Councilman. And this has been I was just going to say the Real Charlie podcast, but it's not. It's Fentanyl Facts and Stories, Monday night. We will see everyone next Monday at 7:30. Again, Councilman, thank you so much for being on. You and I will be connecting for sure. Charlie, thank you for everything you do. And everyone go watch the game that's on, because apparently I didn't even know there was a freaking game on today. So great. Thank you, everyone, for being on. Thank you, Councilman. You have a good night. And
one last thing to the voters out there and the residents. I know times seem tough, and sometimes you think to yourself, who is steering the ship? Better times are ahead. Things are going to get better. Okay? You have to be optimistic. We haven't hit rock bottom. We're nowhere near that. But we're going to be, we're looking up. We're looking up. But we need the voters to be engaged and to keep an eye on their elected leaders. Okay? So again, thank you. God bless. Take care, Paula. Take care, Charlie. And good night, everybody.
Thank you.
It's the Really Charlie podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie podcast. Bump into your broadcast, grab a chair, fill your glass. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie podcast. Bump into your broadcast, grab a chair, fill your glass.